I officially do not understand the Columbus Blue Jackets. So let's try and figure them out on today's Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. I also left to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and get $150 in bonus bets if it wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. I don't understand why the Blue Jackets do what they do. And I tweeted about this a little bit last night, but Blue Jackets lost in overtime to the Montreal Canadiens because of course they did. I don't know what it is about the Habs that makes this team like truly unable to do anything. Maybe that's unfair of me, but like we just saw this team beat Tampa Bay. We saw them beat Carolina. Like we've seen them beat Boston. We've seen them like go toe to toe with the Wild. We've seen them, put a good effort in against the Panthers. And then on the flip side of that, they lose twice to the Canadians, once to the Ducks, once to the Sharks, like once to the Predators in overtime. Like this team confuses the hell out of me because they're out here beating teams that will probably be in the playoffs and then losing to teams below them in the standings. And like, I just like, there was a couple of things that you could point to in this game that are like, oh, okay, well, that needs to be better. That needs to be better. That needs to be better. But like, I don't understand how this team can pull it together for like teams that are objectively better than they are and then turn around like, oh, well, we're just going to lose twice in 2 weeks to the Canadians. And we have to play the friggin' Canadians again in like 2 weeks' time. Although then I guess we are done with them for the season, which is always nice. But like the friggin' Canadians, man, I don't get it. Blue Jackets lose in overtime, 4-3 to the Canadians. My main takeaway from this game, goaltending was not good enough. Kind of on either side, like Primo wasn't great for the Canadians. 3 goals on 23 shots. Elvis was atrocious, I thought. 4 goals on 24 shots. And like, honestly, first goal should have had. Second goal should have had. Third goal is what it is. Fourth goal, odd man rush in overtime. He makes the first save, and then it bounced out of his glove and straight to the player who ends up scoring, Nick Suzuki. But like, it should never have gotten to that point. Like, it should have been 3-1 at the end of regulation. Like that Slavkovsky goal shouldn't have gone in. The Caulfield goal shouldn't have gone in. Like the Caulfield goal partially was because the Blue Jackets forgot how to kill penalties for a second. They got really excited about the prospect of like a shorthanded break, and somehow that left Cole Caulfield with like just a straight shot to the net. Breaks his 12-game goalless streak or whatever it was, because of course he did. I don't think it was quite that many games, but like this team is so frustrating. And like, it wasn't just Elvis that needed to be better last night. Like, there were a lot of players that I think needed to be better last night. Sean Corrali got in big trouble, took 2 minor penalties in his first 4 minutes of ice time, and then did not see the ice for the rest of the game, which put more pressure on the other players, obviously. I don't know that I would have benched him. Like, I don't think the penalties were like egregious enough. I do appreciate that it is a veteran player that is being quote unquote punished for this. Please, insert huge air quotes there. But accountability is important. I'm just surprised that was the accountability. I don't know off the top of my head whether that second penalty by Corrali was the one that the game-winning goal, the power play goal, ended up being scored in. I feel like maybe yes. Yes, it was. So took a penalty in the first period. Everything is mostly fine. Penalty in the second period. Everything is not so fine. Caulfield scores on the power play, ties the game at 2. Just not a great penalty kill for the Blue Jackets, who again have struggled on the penalty kill recently. And then couldn't get anything going on the power play. Admittedly, the Habs power play, the Habs penalty kill, excuse me, is one of the better ones in the league. But like, come on, man, at least pretend like the power play knows what it's doing and is dangerous. Um, Zach Werenski continues to be Zach Werenski. I don't. Him fighting Brendan Gallagher was not on my bingo card. I don't think it was on anyone's bingo card. Quite frankly, watching the replay, it looks like Gallagher managed to get Werenski with his stick in a delicate place, shall we say. Werenski didn't appreciate that. Good for him, I guess. I personally would rather have taken Werenski being on the ice for those 7 minutes, but it is what it is, you know? And I don't actually think the team conceded while he was on the ice. I could be wrong about that, but I believe it was back on the ice by the time the Heinemann goal came in, the 3-2 game. And then obviously he scored the tying goal. Again, another great like vintage Werenski performance, goal and an assist. He's up to I think 22 points in 21 games, which is just bonkers. But just a weird game. It feels like everyone forgets how to play hockey when they're facing off against the Canadians, and like weird, wild. Don't like it. Don't understand it. Again, like I don't think I've talked about the officiating yet, and like I try not to criticize the officiating. I try to criticize the refs. Like, do I think that the officiating in the NHL is good? Not particularly. Do I think I would be able to do a better job? Probably not. Like it's a tough job. Someone's got to do it, but it is frustrating when there is a missed call that results in the game winner being scored. I know that some Habs fans were frustrated by missed calls earlier in the game. I also was frustrated by missed calls earlier in the game, soft calls, whatever. Like the refs are just kind of doing the best that they can out there, I think. Unfortunately, that meant that the Blue Jackets were kind of the victims of that. Like, I think it absolutely should have been a holding call on Nick Suzuki as he like draped himself all over Ken Johnson. Was Ken Johnson kind of falling over anyway? Like, yes, maybe, but I still think that shouldn't like Nick Suzuki helped him fall over, shall we say. And I don't know, like if you wanted to call both of them, I hate the calling for a dive because I don't think it was a dive, but I also hate like you can't have a dive and a genuine penalty at the same time because like, otherwise, you're just complaining that they're being melodramatic. I guess like no, they were tripped, they were high sticked, whatever. The point I'm trying to make is the refereeing in the NHL is not perfect, far from it. And, I think there are a lot of teams, and, myself included, that are sometimes like, well, if the refereeing was better, we would have won that game. Or, the refs hate our team. That's a big one, is that the refs hate our team specifically. And I used to think about this a lot. And then like, honestly, it's just that they're kind of incompetent, So frustrating. But also, I don't know that the Blue Jackets deserve to win this game. Like, I don't think they were very good last night. Some players were good. Werenski was good. Ken Johnson was very good. We're going to talk about him in a minute here as well. But, like, if you're getting 24 shots on goal against the Canadians, like, you don't really deserve to... And you're allowing 4 goals on top of that. Like, I don't think you really deserve to win that game, regardless of what happened in overtime, So let's take a quick break. Let's finish off our thoughts on the game, and then I do want to talk about Kent Johnson who just kind of continues to impress, and you love to see it, quite frankly. So we'll do that in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I'm going to tell you about FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app also gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, college sports. It's bowl season coming up. Like, if you want to put money on that, then FanDuel is the perfect place to do that. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, you can do like play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you're going to get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Just go in, find the heaviest favorite you can, put $5 on it. If it wins, then you're going to get $150 that you can spend on whatever you want. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. I've also got to tell you about Game Time because I don't know about you, I love last-minute tickets to hockey games specifically, but Game Time doesn't just have hockey games. They've got all kinds of sport. They've got music, they've got theater, they've got comedy. If you need a ticket to get in the door, then you can get it at Game Time, and you can get it at a better price than other competing ticketing services. Game Time has a brand new feature, which is super exciting. It's called Game Time Picks, and basically what they do is they curate your tickets, and they only show you great deals, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I mostly use Game Time to buy Sharks tickets when I'm in California, and let me tell you, there are always a lot of tickets available because the Sharks are real bad. So Game Time Picks is great because it shows me great deals on great seats, so I don't have to look through the nosebleed seats or the inexplicably $300 seats for glass level at a Sharks game. Like, Game Time Picks gets rid of all of that and just shows me the seats that I want at the prices I want to pay. Take the guess some kind of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code Locked On NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. We're talking about whatever the heck happened last night, because I'm not convinced it was a hockey game, but the Blue Jackets sure did come out on the losing end of whatever it was. Now, I've recognized that I am potentially being a little bit melodramatic here and acting like the sky is falling over one stupid loss to a team that is worse than they are, and is that not just kind of the NHL way? Is sometimes you lose to a team that isn't as good as you, and it's the worst thing in the entire world. We saw it. The Blue Jackets have been on the other side of that. Like, the Blue Jackets beat the Oilers, and the Oilers fans were just in shock and awe and appalled by it. They beat Carolina. They beat Toronto earlier in the season. Like, they beat Tampa. They beat Boston. All of these teams currently in playoff spots. They beat the Avalanche, and Avalanche fans acted like the sky was falling about it. I get it. However, it happened. The Blue Jackets are on a 4-game point streak right now, 3 wins, 1 overtime loss. And in their last 10 games, they are 4-4-2, which, when you consider that they're still kind of riding out that 6-game losing streak that they were on, is pretty good. I'm just going to pull up their actual schedule to try and figure out where we're up to. So, the last 10 games would start with the game against the Kings. So they've got the 3 games from that losing streak that are included in that, and then after that, they have only lost to the Canadiens. Since they ended that the 6-game losing streak, they've won 4 of their last 6 games. They've got points in 5 of their last 6 games. They've got a regulation loss to the Canadiens and an overtime loss to the Canadiens, which, again, I truly don't understand. In this winning streak, like I said, I'm just going to go over it again. This winning streak, they beat the Bruins, the Lightning, and the Hurricanes. They beat the Penguins at the beginning of this little points streak type thing. Again, in the last 6 games, they beat the Penguins, which doesn't really count. They're below us in the standings. But then, again, the Habs. You lose twice to the Habs. This one, at least, was kind of a more even affair. Last time, it was very much the teams were both terrible, and then the Habs went on a 5-minute PDO bender. Sam Montembeault was good, and somehow the Blue Jackets lost 5-1. This was an equally bad game, I thought, but it was less frustrating because it was at least more even, and both goalies were bad. Both sets of defense were mostly fine. Again, it was a very low event game. I tried to pull up natural stat trick to see what the shot attempts were, and natural stat trick is down at the minute, which seems rude. But man, it's so easy to say, oh yeah, you know what? Let's take the point and move on because that's what I'm gonna do. We're gonna take the point and we're gonna move on. Like the Blue Jackets are, I think, 3 points out of a playoff spot right now as of American Thanksgiving, which, frankly, I don't know if anyone expected them to be there. And also, all of the teams ahead of them, so Buffalo, Philadelphia, and Detroit, have all got games in hand over the Blue Jackets. So they, again, big game tomorrow against Calgary. If they win that, they could sneak up to be within a point of the that wild card spot, which, again, did anyone think that as of, American Thanksgiving, the Blue Jackets would have a better record than 8 other NHL teams and the same record as one more team after that? So they have the same record as the Anaheim Ducks. The Ducks, I believe, have one more regulation win than the Blue Jackets, so that's why they're ahead of them in the standings. But again and again, between 16, which is the final wildcard spot, which is where Tampa Bay is right now, has 24 points. Between them and the bottom of the league, which is currently a tie between Chicago and Nashville, there's 6 points difference. So feels like it's been a weird season already, and it feels like it's only going to get weirder. But to go back to kind of the original point that I was making, am I being melodramatic? Yes. I think it's because, and again, didn't expect this going in. I fully expected this team to struggle going into the season, and then what happened instead is that this team, I think, has massively overperformed their expectations. They've just won 3 in a row, and like I said, 4 of their last 6 points in 5 of their last 6. The standard for this team, last season, I'd be annoyed that they lost to the Habs, but I would be like, you know what, that's fine. Sometimes bad teams lose games. Often bad teams lose games, But this team should be winning these games, and that's what's frustrating about this. So yeah, I'll take the point. I'll move on. Calgary's going to be interesting. We'll talk about that tomorrow. The Blue Jackets have a daytime game, which is exciting for me personally because it means that the game starts at 8 p.m. instead of midnight. But gonna be a big game. Calgary is again massively outperforming their own roster, which I guess it must be down to Dustin Wolf almost entirely because that roster is, again, I live in a glass house of overperforming teams, but the Calgary Flames fascinate me because their leading scorer is Rasmus Andersson, who is a defenseman. He has 13 points. Mackenzie Weegar is in second place in scoring. He has 13 points as well. Also a defenseman. And then Jonathan Huberdeau has 12. Nazem Kadri has 12. Connor Zary has 12. What is happening over there in Calgary? I do think it is mostly Dustin Wolf, who is 8-3-1 on the season and has a .921 save percentage as a rookie. But that's going to be an interesting game. And again, if the Blue Jackets win that, they're going to jump up 4 or 5 places in the league-wide standings, and they will jump into, I think, 5th in the Metro, 4th or 5th in the Metro, which is weird and fun and exciting. So yeah, we'll take the point. We'll move on. We'll start a new win streak tomorrow, hopefully. But man, what a frustrating series of events that the only team that they've lost to in the last 2 weeks has been the Montreal Canadiens. Wild. I don't understand it. I want to take one more quick break, and then when we get back, I do want to talk about Kent Johnson because I meant to talk about him in this segment and then got fully distracted. So we'll talk about Kent Johnson in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I've got to tell you about Built, because if you're a renter, I would start taking advantage of Built if I was you. Here's the thing. We earn points on groceries, travel, practically everything else we buy, but we should also be earning points on rent. That's one of our biggest monthly expenses. So Built has changed the game by letting renters earn high value points on rent and around their neighborhood. There's no cost to join, and as a member, you're going to earn points on rent and on your everyday spending. Built points can be transferred to your favorite hotels and airlines, and even the ones you haven't heard of. There's over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels and properties around the world you can redeem your Built points towards. And those points can also be redeemed towards a future rent payment and the unique experiences that only Built members can access. So if you're not earning points on rent, my question is, why not? Start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/lockedonnhl. That's joinbilt.com/LOCKEDONNHL. Make sure to use our URL so they know that we sent you. Joinbuilt.com/lockedonnhl to start earning points on your rent payments today. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. I've talked about what's frustrated me about this game, and now we're going to talk about what I liked the most about this game. Because the thing that I liked the most about this game, and I'm sure it will shock basically no one, is Kent Johnson, who continues to impress. He is, I think he's at 10 games on the season, if that. And he is up there in points per game specifically. He has, let me just pull, that's the Avalanche. I'm doing so great here. Kent Johnson has 10 points in 7 games so far this season, 4 goals, 6 assists. He had an assist again last night. He has had points in every single game he's played so far this season. He has the highest points per game of any player on the Blue Jackets. He's scoring at 1.43 points a game, which is good for 8th in the entire league. Again, it's a small sample size. Everyone ahead of him has played way more games, except for Mark Stone, who's only played 13. But like, he's kind of in the same company as Connor McDavid, Dylan Strome, Alexander Barkov, who are all leading their teams in scoring. Like, the Blue Jackets, I don't know that anyone expected this from Kent Johnson. I think that we expected, I did anyway, like, looked at Cole Sillinger's kind of career trajectory thus far, is that he had a really great rookie season, struggled in his second year, and then kind of picked himself back up in his third season, which was last year, and looked like a much more complete player. So I kind of looked and I was like, okay, Kent Johnson had a pretty good rookie season, really struggled in his sophomore season, and then his third season had the potential to have kind of that pop that the Cole Sillinger had, but maybe on a bigger scale. And there was a really interesting article actually by, I want to say Mark Scheig posted it, where he basically sat down with Kent Johnson and was like, what's different about this year than last year? And one thing I found really interesting was that he was like, well, I'm allowed to be more creative. And also, I'm not scared that I'm going to get benched if I make a mistake in the offensive zone, which Pascal Vincent, I hope you never find peace. I hope your pillows are never, ever cold. I hope you step, no, I hope you step on a Lego, but that seems too mean. But like, this is the Kent Johnson that they thought they were getting when he was drafted 3 years ago, or 4 years ago? 4 years ago. It was the 2021 draft. I can count. 3.5. Anyway. It's so fun to watch. He has been. And again, like that stretch where he missed due to injury, like you wonder what the Blue Jackets would look like right now if they'd had Kent Johnson that entire time, because like he's driving this team at the minute in a similar but also different way to Sean Monahan, who I think is actually the MVP of this team at the minute. And I retweeted something I want to say yesterday, maybe, where he's like got the 8th highest, he's got like the 8th best analytics of any skater in the NHL right now, based on, I want to say Dom from the Athletics analytics, which you can give or take. Analytics are not the be all and end all, but like he's up there in terms of like Quinn Hughes with the impact that he's having on games, and like Quinn Hughes, reigning Norris winner, one of the best defensemen in the league for my money. Plays a very different game to Sean Monahan, obviously, but like the fact that Sean Monahan is kind of hanging up there and is kind of top 10 in the league in like impact on games is wild to me. But Kent Johnson is, if Sean Monahan is the heart of this team, I feel like Ken Johnson is the head of this team, if that makes sense. He just is so fun and exciting and cerebral to watch. And again, like that game tying goal against Carolina, I keep going back to, where he pulled fully 3 Carolina Hurricanes to him, turned out of it, and then the middle of the ice was completely open for Sean Monahan to make the easiest pass in the world across to Kirill Marchenko, who scored to tie the game. Blue Jackets go on to win the game, you know? And it feels like he's doing those plays like they're nothing, you know? He is by far the most fun player to watch on the Blue Jackets. There's a lot of arguments that could be said that, you know, Werenski is also leading this team, but like I don't know, there's just something about Ken Johnson that every time he has the puck, I'm like, oh, something exciting is going to happen next. Which is kind of what was said about him in his draft year, you know, was Ken Johnson is the kind of player that has you jumping out of your seat in excitement. And we hadn't really seen that in his kind of first 2 seasons, and we're starting to see it now, and it's really, really exciting. Like, I don't know how high this guy's ceiling is. I think Fantilli is really struggling at the minute, and that's something I want to touch on a little bit tomorrow because I don't think I'm going to run out of time today. But like, they need to figure out how to get Fantilli going, and I do think the best way to do it is just to keep him and Johnson together. Figure out the other guy on that line. Maybe it is Chinikov. Chinikov scored a goal last night. Again, I like that line a lot. Fantilli is struggling big time. He actually got dropped from that line and was playing with LeBanc and Van Riemsdyk for the third period, which was, again, I have liked a lot of Dean Everson's decisions, or at least I have understood a lot of Dean Everson's decisions. And the ones that I don't like, usually I'm like, oh, okay, no, you were right. Some of them I still don't agree with. Some of them I'm still struggling to understand. That was one of them. Dropping Fantilli to that third line felt like a mistake. Like, yes, Danforth is having a good game, was having a decent game, is a really good energy player, but like, I don't know, for my money, the way to get Fantilli going is to, again, consistency is huge for a young player. I'm not worried about him yet. Again, sophomore slump. Like, Connor Bedard just went through an 11-game goalless streak that he snapped last night against Dallas. Like, and I'm not worried about Adam Fantilli. He's going to be a very good player for a very long time in this league. But man, if we could get him going even a little bit, that would be great. And I do think that Ken Johnson is the way through that. I do really want to see Ken Johnson on Monahan's wing because Ken Johnson looks like Johnny Gaudreau on the ice. And that's not hyperbole. That's not me being melodramatic. Like, every so often I'm like, oh, like he doesn't quite skate the same, but he has that same, like, sometimes he just takes the puck and does what he wants with it, and everyone else just kind of follows along, you know, and that was Gaudreau at his best, was like that. So I really do want to see what Johnson and Monahan look like, but I really do like that top line of Voronkov, Monahan, Marchenko. Maybe you flip Monahan, maybe you flip Voronkov and Johnson, just to see what happens. Put Fantilli with Chinikov and Voronkov. By the way, it's not lost on me that I was thinking about this watching Voronkov on the bench last night, talking to Marchenko. Have you noticed that how when you put Voronkov with another Russian player, his game is excellent, and when you take him away and he doesn't have any Russians on his line, he struggles? I don't really have like a conclusion or a think piece about this. It was just something I realized last night of like, oh yeah, no, having Marchenko on that line with him is great. And he seems like he really struggled kind of earlier on in the season when he first, like, it could be that he first returned from injury, but I do think that he plays better when he has someone on his line that he can talk to and that can talk to him. Which is helpful that the Blue Jackets have so many Russians, you know. I don't know how sustainable it is, but I would just kind of wrap that thought back up. I would love to see what Johnson and Monahan look like on a line together for like a full game or two. Maybe we'll see it. They might change things up after last night. I don't know that they need to change things up like massively. Hopefully they can get Sillinger back in soon. I don't know. He got kicked in the head, so I assume he is at least a little bit concussed. However, he took morning skate yesterday with the team. He didn't skate by himself, so like that's a good sign. I don't know whether they're keeping him out and it's just precautionary. I don't know whether we'll see him tomorrow. Team is off today for Thanksgiving, obviously, so we'll keep an eye on that. We might see him tomorrow against Calgary. We might not. But having him back, I think, will definitely help. So that's kind of all I've got for today. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll do a preview episode for tomorrow night's game, or tomorrow afternoon's game, I guess, against the Calgary Flames. Going to be an emotional one, I am sure. I don't know what the team has planned in terms of like ceremonies or like honoring. I know the Gaudreaus are going to be in town for it, which is great to see. So we'll see what that's like. Again, I don't know about you. I cried like a baby at the home opener when they honored him. So I am predicting more tears in tomorrow's game, but we'll see how it goes. Thank you for listening, for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms, on YouTube and on SiriusXM. I've been Jay Foster. You can find me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster, JAKOBFORSTER. You can find the show at LO_Blue Jackets. If you have comments, questions, criticisms, email me at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. And until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.